So our next speaker is Steve Kille. He's worked on internet technologies since 1980. That's what I read in the Wikipedia entry. And was one of the principal engineers behind ISO-DE open source implementation of the OSI protocol stack. So I do have warm memories to Quipu, which was the X500 implementation from ISO-DE. He has masters in physics and electrical engineering. He founded ISO-DE Limited in 1992, managed the merger to form Messaging Direct, and after the acquisition of that by ACI, he relaunched ISO-DE in 2002, again focusing on X400 and directories. So now Steve is going to, well, tell us about directory replication from Gigabit LAN to HF radio.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. Sounds like the mics are on anyway. To me, replication is one of the really interesting and key parts of directory. I just want to share a few thoughts with it today. What I'm planning to do is talk very quickly about the paper, and I've got one slide for each section of the paper. I'm just going to say what I said in the paper, and if you agree with it, that's great. And if you don't agree with it, you can go and read the paper, and there's URLs in there if you're really interested in the stuff. But I thought rather than me talking against slides, it'd be interesting to show some stuff and how we've actually put some of this replication into practice and buried some of the complexity under GUIs. And I'm going to allow myself a bit of retrospective thought at the end, so I'm going to come back to the slides right at the very end of this. To me, LDAP is, you use LDAP when you've got common stuff, your users, accounts, PKI that you want to share with lots of people. And in big mission critical services, replication, for all the reasons we know, just becomes a critical part of that. And there's a whole load of things associated with that, and I just wanted to talk a bit about that today. X500 DISP is a much maligned standard. It is the only open standard for server replication, and like LDAP and all of the family, is not a perfect protocol, but it does a pretty good job. I think it's a standard that a number of LDAP vendors would do a lot of good to revisit. X500 is open standards, and this is stuff that should be continuing rather than trying to reinvent wheels. Strong authentication and smart cards are exciting technology. For clients, there's pros and cons of whether you want to use it. For server to server, in the modern internet, there is no excuse. It gives better security, it gives better administration characteristics, you get rid of all the n-squared problems, and it's clean and easy. And I don't know why, but a lot of organizations see this as scary technology, and they shouldn't do. I'm not going to go into single master versus multi-master debates here. I think one of the points I believe very strongly is that multi-master isn't better than single master. They are alternate approaches to the same problem. You get benefits and disadvantages of each one. In my experience with directory deployments, the single master is actually much the preferable choice for a large majority of directory deployments, or it doesn't matter. The real Achilles heel of single master is disaster recovery, because if you want to deal with a 9/11 scenario, your site is wiped out. It is you need to do something, and any software isn't going to protect you against that. If you've got a multi-master system, it kind of falls out in the wash. You don't need any special product support. But if you're going to use single master and you want disaster recovery, you've got to have product support, and there are a number of products that can now do this. We talked in the break a few of us about LDAP-based client protocols for synchronization. one of the things you find, LDAP, you can read data and you can write data, so it's actually very straightforward without any extensions to use a product like our Sodium Sync to read data out of one directory and put it into another. We developed this for Active Directory because there isn't another way to work with that. And you can enhance this in various product-specific ways, or you can do changelog, and you can do LCUP and all this stuff to actually make this better. One of the real advantages of this sort of client-based approach is that you can transform and filter data on the way. So if you're trying to move things around rather than do a high-performance server-to-server replication like you might do with this is a big architectural advantage. The filtered replication is important when you're sitting with a server and you've got data internally, you want to share some of it with the world. One of the neat things you can do is you don't really want to put the intelligence in the filtering, you want to put the control with the data as to what goes in, what's inside and what goes outside. And prescriptive access control, which is the standard way of doing it, is very nice for controlling individual access to modifying data. It's a difficult approach for replicating data. One of the things that we've developed is use of security labels, which are widely used in military and intelligence environments. And you can essentially mark the data with labels as to where it can go and other information about them, and then use that to filter the replication. And there's lots of information in the paper and other stuff on this. I think it's cool technology. The final thing talked about in the paper is directory replication by email, which sounds an absolutely wacko idea. To implement it's easy. You just generate LDIF files and you send the deltas over an email protocol. Why you want to do that? You find certainly in secure environments there are boundaries which email is the only thing that's easy to get across. So you can use email to escape the restrictions of the gateways, and you can replicate your directories onto your submarines or wherever you want to get them. There's also environments where there are special protocols in play that you would not be able to run a standard directory protocol over. And there's actually plenty of work done on email to get them across those. For example, a data diode, which is exactly what it says. You can put packets one way and not the other. Rather than developing directory protocols to do that, you use the email and layer it all on top and it all works. Similarly with HF radio, which is a sort of god-awful slow technology, there's lots of special work to do the email stuff, so this stuff lets you layer directory on top. So it's actually a very practical and interesting approach in a number of environments. So I'm going to switch now to try to show you a bit of technology. The first two technologies I see are the X500 DISP and strong authentication. I just want to show with a startup from scratch that actually this stuff isn't too bad. And then I'm going to give you a bit of a show of the failover disaster recovery and Sodium Sync and how those things come into our UEs. And I think I was fantasizing when I thought I could show you security labels as well. I'm not going to have time, so I'm going to skip that one. So this is a clean setup, and I'm going to run a tool to create a directory service, and I think you'll see that the and the problem here, obviously, to do replication, I've got to create a couple of directory servers. So I'm going to create a bind profile. Now I'm going to create a directory server. One of the interesting problems of doing a directory server from scratch is that you have this problem of you need to establish your data structures, your users, your groups, and they kind of all intermesh with each other, and you've got a chicken and egg situation. So what we're trying to do here is bring all this together. So I'm going, as we're in Germany, I'm going to do a national structured Germany directory that puts everything and users and stuff go under there, and I'm going to create myself as the and as the single user. And the idea is you bootstrap a directory with you don't have a privileged user. You have a single user in there. Where? That's fine. That's fine. I can be Steve C. So to say. Then we have a few access control rules to set up, so that you can build a setup that's useful, and also then you create a number of groups into which access control is set up. And I've got some standard groups that you have to have. You can create some more, and if you want more than that, there's GUIs and stuff to manage it all later. And I'm going to create myself a password that I can remember, so I've got that convenient for next time. And I'm going to use Scram, which is wonderful technology that Kurt's going to tell you about tomorrow. And there I'm there, and it's going to set me up a directory, and now I've got a directory server running. Just about. My slow old PC is going to get there in the end. And I'm not going to bother managing it at the moment. But what I am going to do is I'm going to connect to it with a graphical GUI, and that it's sharing a common profile, so I can log in with the encrypted profile. And you can see I've created a very simple directory with some groups and some users in there, and I'm connecting with a privileged account. And just to show the replication a bit better, I'm going to add in a little bit more directory, and this is going to create a second naming context at the root for those who are watching. And I'm just going to go American here. And also, I'm just going to add a little bit of data into here, because I want some real data to show the replication in a minute. And so that's LDIF loaded in. I've got a little bit of a sample organization with a country under a country. So beautiful schema. But here's some real data in the directory. So now I've got a directory running with data in it. So now this is just pre-prep for the demonstration I wanted to give, which is replication. So I'm going to create a shadow directory server, and you'll see that the shadow can take all its parameters from the master, which the tool has access to. And now this is the replication bit, and I've got to replicate the core data, because that's got users and groups in that, and that's got across the site. And the country equals US, I can choose to replicate it if I want to. And I'm going to choose a highly imaginative name for this second DSA, and I'm going to have Scram as well. And it's going to pick some different ports to listen on, because I've only brought one machine today. And now I can choose. I'd like to show strong authentication from scratch, but now we've got another chicken and egg situation. So I'm going to go for name-only replication, and then I can finish, and I've got another directory server. Why didn't you do this? Swearing at live demos. No, I cleared all that carefully. I'm going to be. I don't want to manage. I'm going to go back to sodium, and I'm going to go to Germany, and I'm going to make a change in here, and then if I bind over, I can go to the second directory, and I can expand, and I can see that it's all replicated, and the data's in there. So that was X500 DISP, and no awkward parameters or OSI stacks or anything in there. You can give a pretty straightforward user experience onto there. And also, once you've got this in place, you can monitor, and as well as looking at the directories, you can monitor the shadow agreement. So if in a complex environment, you see not only the servers are running, but all that the data is replicated between them. So if you're in a content distributed environment where you want all this stuff out to the end users, this stuff is available and working just fine. So we've done replication, and now as a prereq, I want to do strong authentication. I've only had 15.
15? Oh, sorry. Well, then have 10 minutes.
And I'm going to. Unfortunately, to do all this, I need to create a CA, and I'm going to do the fastest creation rather than using a third party in Trust or whatever. I'm going to use our own CA. And you'll see that I need to bind. This is where it comes in. I need to bind as the user that I created earlier, so I can authenticate to set up the CA in the directory. And I'm going to add a CA in here, and I'm going to give a most imaginative name for the CA without a typo this time. And lots of default parameters I don't need to particularly worry about here. I'd love to show you creation of a nice sort of trust chain with multiple CAs and cross certifications, but I don't have time to, so I'm just going to generate a simple CA here. And at this point, I am done with the CA, and I can open up the CA and get to that like that. And also, if I go back to Sodium, I can go to Germany, and the CA is there, and it's been populated with all of the PKI information. So that's giving us that's the CA created and all the information registered in the directory. Now I'm going to go back to my my first directory server, and I'm going to quickly set up strong authentication. In fact, the hard thing to do is you've got to set up a secure identity for each of the servers. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create an X509 and also a TLS identity for the server, and lots of creating next. I can configure my PKI, do fancy stuff there, and I'm going to put the certificate onto the desktop. Then I will go back to Sodium CA, and I can refresh. I find that the certificate request is there, so this could have gone to any CA I like. Here I'm going to issue a certificate, and this takes me through. I can default this with lots and lots of next, but this is the CA making a decision that it's going to do the right stuff. And then I am back to the directory. The CA has given me a certificate. I can come in here, and I'm going to finish for that DSA, and then I'm going to do exactly the same for the second DSA. And create. Sodium CA, finding the certificate request, issue the certificate. Sorry, there's lots of next buttons here, and I've got a certificate, but it's all pretty easy stuff to do. And I should, at that point, I may not have clicked apply on that previous one, so I'm rushing this a little bit. So I can come back to I've lost myself in trying to rush this. Let me come back to here. And if I look at the agreements, I can now X509 verification. I can actually I didn't do that, but I will be able to. I can if I was able to, I'm going to skip the rest of this, but if I was able to, if I had both of this, I'd be able to verify. It would show that the trust is in both ways, and then actually the hard bit of it is actually setting up the strong authentication. So I go back to there, and I just click that to strong. So I've now got strong authentication set up between the DSAs, which I hope you agree is not a process that the average administrator should be scared of. This is all straightforward stuff. The second thing I want to show you whilst I've got this is the failover configuration, and I can create, if I want to create a failover group, I can essentially create a mirror of the master DSA, and now I can create a second DSA, which I'm going to call imaginatively. And so what this has done is it's created a second DSA. It has replicated using this, not just the data, but also the configuration of that. So it is actually an operational mirror. And now I can go back to the primary tab, and you'll see I can look at the failover configuration. I can see that the failover is being managed by two servers. One is the operational master. The other is the second, which could be off-site. So I can just right-click, and I can switch over, and that becomes, and you'll see that the first one there, at that point, if I refresh it and scan now, you'll see that it's switched over. So I can and in the event of a disaster, the operator can connect and can quickly flick over and make the first one the master. And the final part of the demo, I wanted to show you the sodium sync. So I'm going to need to create yet another directory server, and this one is an independent server. So I'm just going to click through all the nexts, and we're going to go for an LDAPCon. And I'm going to take all of the defaults, so it's going to be really quick to get this one going. So I'm going to bind to this new directory server that I've connected, the O equals LDAP server that I've put up there. I'm going to I'm going to add a country equals US in here, and you'll see why in just a second. And a quick demonstration of how the sync works. And I'm going to go this started as Active Directory to mVault, but in fact you end up being able to synchronize all sorts of stuff. And you can schedule a managed sync, but all I'm going to do now is I'm going to go from my my first LDAP1 here, and I'm going to go to country equals US, and I'm going to go to the local one here, and blast. Thanks, Kurt. I'm glad somebody's watching. Right, so we've now got a sync there, and I can run the sync, and I don't know why it failed. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. I put the country equals US under LDAP, which is some interesting symbolism. you'll see that if you come under US, that basically everything. I click on the right one. Is based, so this is basically synchronized and pulled it over and can keep it into view. And if I come back very briefly to the manager, you can see that also this is. If I go to an advanced view, there's a lot of things that you can change here, and in particular, you can this is where you'll control doing things such as data manipulation and the driving of the directory replication onto file transfer. So you can put LD files in and out, and you can integrate this to operate over a system. And I'm sorry I don't have a bit more time to show you a bit more of all of this, but I hope it's given a feel for some of the things that we're doing here. And in particular, the message this X500, X509 is technology that does not have to be complex for the end user and the administrator. This is deployable technology that people ought to be using. I wanted to give myself, as I was up here, a little bit of a chance to look backwards onto X500 and LDAP. I think I started, believe it was in 1982, because the intention was to, in the X400 1984 edition, to include a directory service at that point. There were people working to try to bring out a directory service in 1984. It didn't happen, but it was a long thing. We wanted to build a global directory. There was the vision here was, we want to take over the world, or megalomania, or whatever. It hasn't happened. I mean, DNS is there for good, which I think is very sad, because I think there's a lot of the richness of LDAP that could help in many other places. And I asked myself the question before I came here: what could we have done differently to change things? And I think if we had done two things. The first is, DNs suck. The attribute for searching, information management, and all that is absolutely brilliant. It's the right way. Attributes are the right way for managing and controlling data. But humans don't like typing in attributes. It confuses them. We should. The DC equals was an attempt to get around this. It was too little and too late. We should have wired in domain names right in from the start into X500 and LDAP, and that would have given familiarity, and it would have let people deploy systems that really could migrate, and we'd be running our world off LDAP now, perhaps, if that would have been done. The second thing was top-level replication. And I've talked a lot about replication today, but all of this is about leaf replication of things at the bottom of the DIT, sharing information. If you're going to build a real global distributed directory, you need to worry about replication at the top of the tree, and at least Andrew's going to remember this bit. We did try to do some things like that, and we were told, no, we've now got standardized replication. We should throw this away. But in fact, we should have kept going at this, because if we'd solved this, we'd have had the real basis for a distributed global directory. And if you're under 30 years want a proper distributed directory, and you want to phase out DNS with something better, this is the hard problem. It's another replication problem, and that's really worth thinking about and tackling.
Thank you very much, Steve. So the number of questions is dependent on your hunger. Yeah? So it's all, but please go ahead. Let's have
lunch.
No. Let's have a few questions. So everyone is so hungry.
I'm hungry. That's cool with me.
At least one question, yes.
It was too bad you didn't have time to show, but one of the things I was just going to let the people know is that Sodium Sync also has a huge amount of capabilities in doing transformations of the data as it's being replicated. And that's what you see in the difference also, where DISP is more designed for server-to-server replicating the content pretty much as it is, and Sodium Sync and similar tools like that are about where you're doing partner to partner and things have to be transformed between the two DSAs.
I think it's exactly one of the points I should come back to. With replication, there is important. There is not a one-size-fits-all. So if you're thinking we want a single replication protocol, I think you need the email replication, you need the synchronization with flexibility, you need the server-server protocol, and you probably need two server-server protocols because you need one for the leaf data and you need one for the root data, and they're going to be different protocols.
Okay. So, no. Okay.
We nearly got lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make it quick. I mean, you've shown quite rightly that doing X509 is the right thing and it's not hard to set up. What you possibly haven't shown is that it introduces another risk, which is that you've now put something in there with a date stamp and an expiry date.
Sure.
And there are already several things in quite a number of the commercial servers which kill the server within a certain time of installation. Those that use separate database backends, it's amazing how many of them forget to turn off password expiry on the backend database.
Yeah.
Your certificates expiring is another way of killing your server. So you're creating another thing you have to manage.
Absolutely. If you're doing something like this, you need to manage it. And one of the important things to realize is, and I think it's one of the problems with some of the pure scripted interfaces onto PKI, is that you need to be able to visualize the PKI data, you need to be able to manage it and to understand it. I think we first did PKI strong authentication 15 years ago, and it all worked fine, but it wasn't deployable. And I hope one of the lessons that ISO as a group has learned is all the stuff you've got to put around it to make it deployable needs a lot of GUI and a lot of management tools. And I wish I had time to go in and show you some of the stuff we've done, because I think we've done some pretty cool stuff here.
You need a 10-year calendar, actually. That's really all that matters.
Okay,
Thanks.
so thanks again, Steve. So